What's up, everyone? Mr. NoobTube Gamer. Today we're playing Battlefield 1943 in 2021. Wow, time flies. I can't believe this game came out 78 years ago. No, I'm just kidding. This game did not come out in 1943. It actually came out in 2009. So the game's 12 years old. Still pretty old, but not that old. But as you guys can tell by the title of the game, Battlefield 1943, and I'm sure you can tell by the gameplay also, the Americans versus the Japanese, this game took place in World War II. It was the first time we saw Battlefield in a World War II setting since the very first Battlefield game, Battlefield 1942. So I guess you can view it as a sequel to 1942 because it's called Battlefield 1943, but there are a lot of big differences between Battlefield 1942 and Battlefield 1943. The big difference is that 1943 was never released on PC. It was only available on PS3 and 360, while 1942 was only available on PC. So that's the big difference between the two games. The other difference is that 1943 only focuses on the Pacific Front. And the game only has 4 maps, because 1943 is much smaller in scope than most Battlefield games that we've had, because 1943 was not a full-priced $60 game. It was only released on the Xbox Live Arcade and the PlayStation Network for just $15. So it's definitely a much smaller game than the ones that we're typically used to seeing in the Battlefield series. But that doesn't mean it's any less fun. I have a lot of fun playing 1943 even after all this time. There's just something special about this game. Anyone who's played it before knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's actually amazing what they were able to do with a $15 game, with a little Xbox Live Arcade game. It wasn't even a full-priced game, but it was still a really solid Battlefield experience for the price. Because yes, we only got 4 maps in the game, but they were really high-quality maps that are some of the best maps we've ever seen in the Battlefield series, in my opinion. Wake Island is just fucking amazing. The gunplay is actually a pretty good upgrade from the last game in the Battlefield series, Battlefield Bad Company 1. So they actually made a lot of improvements to the gameplay compared to the previous game, even though it was only $15. So that's also pretty cool. And just everything that we know and love from a Battlefield game is in 1943. You have plenty of destructible environments, probably just as destructible as Bad Company 1. And you got plenty of vehicles to choose from. You got tanks, you got smaller vehicles that have machine guns on them, and of course, the big thing, the airplanes. And the reason why you're not seeing a lot of airplane gameplay is because I'm pretty shitty with the airplane. I've always been about capping objectives and being on the ground. Infantry's always been my thing in Battlefield, so I was never really crazy about airplanes and tanks and all that shit. But, I mean, that's one of the most iconic things about 1943, the dogfights that you can have with the airplanes. I just love this game so fucking much. I remember when I first got this game, it was when I pre-ordered Battlefield 3. EA had a special promotion where if you pre-ordered the game on the PS3, you also got a free copy of 1943. If you guys remember back then, EA was actually trying to scam people who pre-ordered Battlefield 3 and say, oh no, we're actually not going to give you a free copy of Battlefield 1943, even though we advertised it. So a bunch of people came together and started a class action lawsuit against EA, and they had to pull back on that and say, oh no, we actually are going to give you Battlefield 1943. So I got my copy of Battlefield 1943, and it was nice. It was a lot of fun. You know, Battlefield 3 was obviously a really good Battlefield game, but when I was kind of tired of playing that game, I was always able to come back to 1943, and it was a nice, casual, fun experience compared to Battlefield 3, and it was just more laid back. I think that's a big reason why people love 1943 so much, is because, yeah, I mean, you can be really skilled with the airplane. There is a little bit of a skill ceiling, but I would say of all the Battlefield games we've ever had, 1943 is probably the easiest to just pick up and play. I mean, there's no such thing as weapon customization. Everyone has the same guns. Everyone has the same 3 classes to choose from. You have the infantry class, which is what I use, and it's my personal favorite, where it focuses more on close quarter engagement. So you guys seen the gameplay. I like to flank, and I like to move around and try to sneak up on the enemy and cap the flag that way. And using those short range weapons really helped me doing that. And also, the infantry class has a rocket launcher, so it's a lot easier to take out the tanks. But then you also have the rifleman class, which is pretty much the M1 Garand, so it's more for medium to long range engagements. But then you have the Scout class, which is a full-blown sniper class. So if you want to snipe from across the map, you can do that. I tried doing that. I'm really not a good sniper. Yeah, I'm just more of like a close quarter engagement person. Even in a large scale game like Battlefield, that's how I like to play, and I can do that just fine in Battlefield 1943. And I still find myself very impressed by what DICE was able to pull off with a $15 Xbox Live Arcade game. It puts a lot of full price $60 games to shame. And I would actually go as far as to say that Battlefield 1943, I would easily put on the top 5 list of my favorite Battlefield games of all time. And that's pretty crazy to think about because the game only costs $15. There's a lot of Battlefield DLC. Those map packs, you had the DLC in Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, they were what, like $15 a pop? But if you didn't have the premium pass, that was the price of this entire game. And honestly, I feel like EA should have made more of these games that are like not a full price game, but like $15, but they could still do a lot with it. I really wanted a Battlefield 1944 for so long, and I still do, especially considering how disappointing Battlefield 5 was. That was not a good World War II game. It was not a good game in general. Fucking garbage. So I would love a Battlefield 1944 or something similar where it's not like a full price game and it's a good way to hold Battlefield fans over between two games. So 1943 came out in between Bad Company 1 and Bad Company 2. They could just release these like little games in between. Why not? I think it would be really fucking cool if they did that again. But knowing EA, they probably won't because, I mean, it's been 12 years. If they were going to do it, they would have done it by now, right? So it kind of sucks we never got a sequel to this game. But I would say it still holds up quite well in 2021. So if you haven't played it before, I think it's definitely worth checking out. Battlefield 1943 costs $10 right now on the Xbox Live Store and the PlayStation Store. So if you have a PS3 lying around, if you have an Xbox 360, an Xbox One, a Series S, a Series X, any of those consoles, I definitely recommend that you pick this game up. It's well worth the $10 that it costs because there's still an active player base. It's still a lot of fun in my opinion, even though I guess you could say the game has aged quite a bit. It is 12 years old, so the gameplay is a little bit clunky and it's not as smooth as newer Battlefield games. And the game is running at 30 FPS, so, you know, it is a little old and it is a little bit off-putting for some people, I guess. But for me personally, I just have a fucking blast playing it. I don't care how old it is. I don't care if it's running at 30 FPS. To me, it's still an amazing experience in 2021. It's definitely worth it if you've never played it before. But that's it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Next video, we're going to talk about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 in 2021. So that should be fun. But until then, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.